Hello, welcome in the rock and roll kitchen. Just having a bit of a late, small, relaxed breakfast. On their 2001 album, We Love Life, Pulp sang in the song Bad Cover Version. A bad cover version of love is not like the real thing. Now, music fans often tend to, I think, share the same feelings about cover versions in general. I have to admit, I used to be a little bit of a purist, often claiming that cover versions are a bit of a, waste of time, usually worse than the original, and often reek a little bit of, a writer's block or a lack of creativity. But then I came across an album in my collection, which it's well done now. This one, Black Eye Diaries by the band Heavy Ball. And I remembered that among tons of really, really great and fun originals, this album contains a cover version of the 80s classic Small Town Boy by Bronski Beat. Heavy Ball probably are not very well known. They are from London. I think they are still around. I hope they are still around. I had the pleasure and the luxury of opening for them with my small 60s rock band I used to play in a small club in Vienna. These guys came over from London extra to play a club in Vienna. How cool is that? We had a bit of a chat, and I also got this signed copy of their then current new album, Black Eye Diaries. Heavy Ball play a sort of Britpop informed ska rock or ska pop. It's very much influenced by the two-tone movement, but it's not pure reggae or ska. There's also a lot of melodic Britpop in there. So if that is your cup of tea, check him out. This is a great album. As I've said, Small Town Boy is on here. You probably know this song. It's an 80s hymn, an 80s classic about homosexual coming out in the bleak, dreary, conservative England of the early 80s. A synth pop hit for the ages. This version here is more a kind of ska rock party vibe version, but it's cleverly done. It's not like those, cheap ska punk cover versions of any hits that you can find, like Sand on the Sea. This is a really great cover version, and that made me think of other cover versions that I actually enjoy a lot, or would even claim are better than the originals. So here in my little kitchen, I cooked up a little list off the top of my head, and this video will present you, whether you like it or not, 12 cover versions that I think are worthwhile to check out or are even better than the originals. I need some caffeine to get through this video. Okay, here we go. Please be aware, of course, this is just a personal random list. It's not a ranking, so the order in which I present these songs doesn't have any meaning at all. I'm not ranking these songs. I'm not claiming that the cover version that I mention third is better or worse than the cover version I mention at the end of this video, okay? So, off the top of my head, very impromptu, I came up with 12 tracks I'd like to talk about, 12 cover versions, but as soon as the creative juices started to flow, I realized there are actually quite a lot of cover versions that I enjoy, so I might do at least a part 2 of this little project here. Cover versions are all around us, and as a young music listener, very often I wouldn't even be aware that a song that I heard and enjoyed was a cover version. And of course, being the strict music nerd that I am, I very often found myself, or at least sometimes found myself, in the dilemma that only later I learned that there was an original. And of course, I was not that stupid to then claim that now I know it's a cover version, I don't like it anymore. No, of course not. If they are well done, cover versions really can add to the originals and can even surpass the originals, as you might see. But feel free to, of course, leave comments. Tell me what you think of cover versions. What are cover versions that you enjoy? Cover versions that you think are better than the originals? Or maybe where you disagree and say, no, the original is the only real thing and all cover versions can stay in the kitchen where they belong. Okay, enough babbling. Track number 1, I'll start. I realized this first episode here is a bit focused on the 1960s, but I don't think I really will manage to come up with a real chronological order from the 60s to nowadays. But this episode has mostly songs from the 60s cover versions recorded in the 1960s. And the first one that came to mind is a very, very famous song, of course. It became a hit and arguably is more famous than the original version. And I'm talking about Mr. Tambourine Man by The Byrds. Originally, of course, written and recorded only a few weeks before the Byrds version came out by none other than Bob Dylan in an acoustic folk rock version. The Byrds famously invented or popularized the jangly Rickenbacker guitar sound, and thus arguably were inventors of folk rock. And this electrified but very gentle melodic version of Mr. Tambourine Man is an absolute classic in its own right. It's a beautiful interpretation, rendition of the Bob Dylan track. And as I would say, and I think I'm not alone with this, this actually, even though it is a cover version, strictly speaking, this can be seen as the definite version of Mr. Tambourine Man.
Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy and there ain't no place I'm going to.
Let's go back in time a little bit for the next cover version I picked. 1963, the second Beatles album is released with the Beatles. usually not the most popular album, but it includes, among other cover versions, and the Beatles, especially in the early years, did a lot of cover versions. It includes Please Mr. Postman, originally a Motown hit by the Marvelettes, the first Motown song to reach #1 in the US Billboard charts, so kudos to the Marvelettes. It's a wonderful slice of Motown soul pop. The Beatles did their own cover version for their second album. Of course, the Beatles version is not it doesn't have the same swagger as a Motown record, but I still love it for its harmony vocals, and it's very nice combination of Mersey beat with a bit of a soul influence. I think they should have released this as a single, even though it is a cover version. In my opinion, it's one of the best covers the Beatles ever released. Mersey beat and UK pop from the 1960s a little bit. The next song on my random list is a track recorded by the Hollies in 1965. It's called Fortune Teller. The original version is by a rhythm and blues singer called Benny Spellman, I think from 1961 or 1962. Now, Fortune Tellers seem to be a little bit like, a standard among Mersey beat groups. In the mid-60s, I think there's also a version by the Yardbirds and by various other bands. But this version by the Hollies has a fun drive to it. It's just a nice little catchy tune. Great song for lovers of 60s beat music. Check it out.
Something struck me like a ladder from up above. While looking at the fortune teller, I fell in love. Now I'm a happy fella. I'm married to the fortune teller.
White bands liked to cover soul tracks. With the next one, we have a soul classic that itself is a cover version. Respect was recorded in 1965 by Otis Redding. It appeared, I think, on his album Otis Blue, and became quite a hit for him. A solid soul pop song about a man asking his lady for some respect. But then something happened in 1967. Aretha Franklin recorded the song again, so she did a cover version actually, changed the lyrics a little bit to present the song from a female perspective, and this works so much better. Respect by Aretha Franklin overshadows the Otis Redding version by several miles, and completely justified. It became a #1 hit and a million seller. This is another cover version which arguably is actually the definitive version of the song. Respect by Aretha Franklin. The next one on my list is an evergreen, originally recorded for the first time in the 1930s, and it is still a classic for the hot season summertime. Originally written by George Gershwin, an absolute classic, and there are dozens of interpretations, cover versions of this song around Louis Armstrong, Sam Cooke, Nina Simone, Joni Mitchell, you name them. The one I am referring to was released in 1965, originally on an EP by the UK beat pop, dream pop psychedelic band The Zombies, and their version of Summertime is just beautifully tranquil, but at the same time very cool, very 1960s. If you haven't heard this one, go check it out. I think of the ones I know, this might very well be my favorite version of Summertime.
It's summertime and living is easy. The fields are jumping and the cotton is high.
Now let's move on at least a few years. The late 60s brought psychedelic rock and also kind of underground style, mixing psychedelia with jazz and classical influences. Back then often referred to as underground rock, but that should of course quickly become better known as progressive rock. One of the bands that started out in this kind of strange no man's land musical laboratory, somewhere between psychedelia and not fully fledged prog rock, of course, were Yes. The late 60s also saw everything becoming a bit more experimental, more technical in terms of playing, and people like to draw out their songs to unexpected length. And there was also the new fashion of doing cover versions that sounded nothing like the original and to do very drawn out, very lengthy cover versions. The best known candidates for that in the late 60s were a band called Vanilla Fudge, but also Yes, at least in their early years, tried to leave an impression with quite eccentric or creative cover versions. Not all of them worked, but there is one cover version I enjoy very much, and that is a lengthy version that sounds almost nothing like the original of a very fluffy but nice Beatles track. Not even the best known Beatles number, Every Little Thing. This was an album track on Beatles for Sale. The Yes version is, I think, at least double as long as the original Beatles recording. It has a bombastic introduction that gives you no indication that you are about to hear a Beatles song. There are excursions, guitar soloing, jazzy chord structures, but I really like this one. It's great fun. It's, I think, a very good example of a band turning a song upside down and making it their very own. I guess a lot of Yes fans would rather point to Yes's cover version of America by Simon and Garfunkel, a legendary cover version, but I have to admit I don't really enjoy the Yes version. So in terms of cover versions by Yes, Every Little Thing is the one for me.
Every little thing she does for me, yeah. And you know the thing she does for me.
I guess Beatles songs were covered on a daily basis during the 1960s and the 70s. I can't go through all of them, but I picked out one more for my list. The Beatles famously released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in 1967, which is a milestone in psychedelic rock music, with one of the most psychedelic tracks the Beatles ever recorded, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Now, this song was covered, for example, by Elton John. There is, however, an older cover version that was released roughly 1 year after Sgt. Pepper's had taken the world by storm by, believe it or not, Captain Kirk himself, William Shatner. Yes, a lot of you probably know that William Shatner also has a bit of a questionable musical career, and he released his debut album in 1968 called The Transformed Man, and on that album is a cover version of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Now, you need to hear this to believe it if you haven't already heard it. I'm not sure whether I love or hate this version. It is completely insane. William Shatner rather talks his way through the song with some dramatic overacting, which is ingeniously funny. The backing track has some cheesy female background singers, some orchestral psychedelic effects. It's just quirky in the best sense of the word. A fantastic cover version for those who like their cover versions eccentric and very, very left field.
Picture yourself in a boat on a river with tangerine trees and marmalade skies. Somebody calls you, you answer quite slowly. A girl with kaleidoscope eyes.
With this next one on my list, I'm not even 100% sure I can call this a cover version, because the source for it, the song, is a traditional, which would open up the the not so easy discussion actually about the sometimes the obsession with authenticity and the issue of what is an original and what isn't in recorded music, especially rock and pop music. Is the original version the one that was recorded by the person who also wrote the song? Is the original version the one that was released first? So with traditionals, it's you cannot say that the first pop or rock band to record a traditional recorded the original version. Certainly not. This song is actually one that I don't like hearing because it is so overplayed. Every student of the acoustic guitar probably starts with this one, and of course I'm referring to The House of the Rising Sun. Now, if you now expect me to wax lyrically all over the version, the famous version by The Animals, I have to disappoint you. The version, the rendition, interpretation, whatever you like to call it, that I like best is from 1970 and was recorded by a heavy blues rock band from Detroit called Frigid Pink. I'd say you can call it blues rock or maybe proto hard rock, acid rock, whatever. They recorded a version in 4/4 time, very straightforward, with incredibly loud, violent fuzz guitar, a wailing, powerful singer. If you like this kind of balls to the wall rock music, check out Frigid Pink's version of House of the Rising Sun. It's remarkable what they still could get out of this standard, actually. The version was quite successful. I think it went very highly up the charts around the world. I think it even made number one in Germany. Frigid Pink went on to record a few more albums, but never were very successful. Their debut album still is the best known one, and even that one is probably more a bit of an obscure footnote in the history of blues rock and hard rock. With this and the next one, I'll deliberately will move myself onto thin ice because I'll talk about Joni Mitchell cover versions. Now, Joni Mitchell fans, purists, of course, always will say that it's almost like a sacrilege to cover Joni Mitchell, and it's a futile endeavor because nobody can cover Joni Mitchell. I think a few managed, even though, of course, they gave a quite different spin to the Joni Mitchell original. The first one maybe is a bit less controversial. Joni Mitchell recorded a song about the famous festival Woodstock. I think it's on her second or third album, not sure now. She herself didn't make it to Woodstock or couldn't go for some reason, but wrote a wonderful tune about her impressions and her thoughts about this festival while watching the television coverage of the Woodstock Festival. And then Crosby, Stills and Nash covered the song. This is also a great version. My favorite version, however, maybe is the most pop version of it. I don't know, but to me, this is the most beautiful version. It's the cover version by Ian Matthews, no, just Matthews Southern Comfort, also from 1970, I think. So the song was released in at least 3 versions within a very short time span, and I think all versions were quite successful. Matthew's Southern Comfort version definitely became quite a huge radio hit. It has beautiful, gorgeous harmony vocals. It has a very dreamy atmosphere. And yes, I prefer it over Joni Mitchell's original and over the equally celebrated version by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
We are stardust, we are golden, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden.
Another Joni Mitchell cover I really, really enjoy, and I'm here for the world to see, is a bit of a guilty pleasure. Covering that song must have really felt a bit like a slap in the face, actually, back in the 1970s. Joni Mitchell has several revered, excellent, timeless albums in her discography. Usually the most popular one is Blue. It's a very intimate, very personal and sparse acoustic singer-songwriter folk album. One song on this album is called This Flight Tonight. It's one of the more lively tracks, maybe less depressing than the other ones, but still it has a very personal quality to it. Now in, I think, the mid or late 70s, a hard rock band from Scotland took this very song and turned it into a hard rock radio hit single. You probably know it, and I think this is a very divisive cover version. Rock fans, a lot of rock fans really, really love the cover version of This Flight Tonight. Joni Mitchell fans dread it or hate it. I like both versions. This may be a little bit an easy way out, but I really do like both versions. This Flight Tonight by Joni Mitchell, of course, is excellent singer-songwriter, a female take on running away from a relationship. The version by Nazareth is macho male hard rock with a galloping, almost Iron Maiden-like rhythm, a rough male voice. It really seems to be the complete opposite of Joni Mitchell's intention, but as a rock song, this is incredibly good, and it's actually fun to see that Joni Mitchell's singer-songwriter folk at sometimes had serious hard rock potential. And finally, before my coffee gets cold, a track originally recorded in 1965. It was only released as a B-side, was a complete flop, or actually it simply wasn't known. A song called Tainted Love, performed by a young soul singer with the name Gloria Jones. Maybe known to some music fans as background singer and later girlfriend of Mark Bolan from T-Rex. While she recorded the song, it was just released as a single B-side, didn't leave a lot of an impression. But somehow this vinyl single found its way to the UK in the 1970s, where there was that strange movement, one of those typical British pop culture scenes that only really worked in Great Britain, the Northern Soul scene. And DJs, were seeking out fast-paced, obscure soul vinyl singles from the USA to play them in clubs. The music had to be stomping and very danceable, and Tainted Love was sort of rediscovered, or maybe just discovered for the very first time. It became, in the Northern Soul scene, it became a kind of club hit. And so it actually makes quite a lot of sense that in the early 80s, a synth pop duo that probably also was aware of the Northern Soul scene in the UK, namely Soft Cell, covered Tainted Love. To this day, a lot of people think that this is a Soft Cell original because the 1960s version isn't very well known. Well, it's a cover version, and also a cover version that somehow stays true to the original, but then of course adds a lot of new elements to it, thus changing the style quite a bit. So a good example of how to turn a Northern Soul classic into a cold new wave synth pop anthem. It's probably well known that the Soft Cell version became a #1 hit around the world, and of course nowadays still is a classic at 80s parties.
I give you all a boy could give you. Take my tears and that's not nearly all. Tainted love, tainted love. Now I know I've got to run away.
So with that, I leave you for the time being. So we started in the 60s and we came to 1980s UK, which builds a little bit of a clumsy bridge back to two-tone and Britpop combined by heavy ball on this excellent album. Small Town Boy is a highlight, but not the only one. They really did some excellent originals on this record.
Father will never understand why you had to leave, for the answers you seek will never be found at home. No, the love that you seek will never be found at home. No, run away, run away, run away, run away, run away, crying.
Yes. If you think this is an interesting little segment or a nice platform to start discussing the pros and cons of cover versions, let me know in the comments. Feel free to verbally throw rotten tomatoes at me for loving This Flight Tonight by Nazareth or whatever. And yeah, doing this, I definitely realized there are more cover versions I really enjoy than I would have thought before. So I probably will one day have another breakfast and do a part 2 of this, then maybe looking at more stuff from the 70s, 80s, and also recent years. We shall see. Thanks for the time being, and maybe see you in another video.